If you want to be able to give somebody a non-editable PowerPoint presentation where they can only view it, they can't come in here to the design view to make changes to it, then you want to save it as a PowerPoint show. So you can do that by coming up here, clicking on Save As, or go backstage to Save As. Let me click and drag this down. You want to change the Save As type from a PPTX, PowerPoint presentation, to, come up here, right there, PowerPoint show.ppsx. Select it. It's going to save it to my desktop. That's fine. Click Save. And that's it. Let me go ahead and close out. And there we go. Here's my original presentation, and it's got the extension .pptx. And here's the one that I saved as the, well, you can see, hover over it, PowerPoint slideshow, which is a ppsx. And if you don't know anything about extensions, you can't see the extension of the name of the file, then you can watch my Windows training video on extensions, and you'll learn about how to show, hide them, and how that affects your files, telling the operating system which program to open up the file in. In any case, here's the one that's protected. So when they double click on it to open it up, there we go, and when they hit the escape key, hey, where's the design view? Well, if you think that they can be sneaky and open up PowerPoint, here, the program, and then to take it and drag it into there to think, hey, it'll be in the design view now, let go, click and drag, and that's what you get. You just get a picture of the first slide in the presentation. It doesn't allow you to drag it into the design view to be able to make changes to it. So, hey, that's pretty nice and secure. A hyperlink is a link that when you click on it, it'll take you somewhere. Well, in this example, I've got a picture here that's also in my presentation that if somebody wants a complete view of it in full screen and they like what they see, well, I believe it's slide 6. Yep, right there. Well, they're going to see it before we get down to the slide number 15, but what if we right-clicked on it and we had it hidden? Because I don't want to cover any slides that people don't have an interest in, so I'm going to have a collage on slide 15 and say, okay, here's some of the places that I visited, and they're like, hey, what's that slide right there? Can you tell me more about that? Where's that at? I think that's Alaska. What you can do is you can convert it into a hyperlink that when you click on it, it'll jump right to slide 6, even though it's been hidden from the presentation, and reveal it. That way we can look at it in more detail and say, yep, there's that peak. I remember seeing that when I was on vacation in Alaska. In any case, to go ahead and convert that into a hyperlink, you can do it one of a few ways. You can either select it and come up here and click on the Insert tab, and then go to the Links group. And there you go. Click on Link. Opens up the Insert Hyperlink, or close out. You can also right-click and insert hyperlink on it as well. Left-click. There we go. Now we're not looking for another file or web page, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Like if I have another file on my computer, another presentation, or I want to go to a website like my website. Let's do it within this document. Select it, and hey, there's all the slides, and oh, not only all the slides, but also any custom shows that I have. So when I click on it, it can jump right into like the intermediate shows. So when somebody goes, hey, I really want to know more about this place, maybe it's not intermediate. Maybe we have it labeled as, you know, the 3 different options here. This is Alaska, this is some other place, we'll call it Antarctica. It looks like it's got some ice there. And then, well, whatever that is, and go ahead and list them there so we can go ahead and begin a custom show tailored to anybody who has an interest in what they see here. Doesn't that sound cool? So I can link it right to it. Otherwise, if nobody says boo to it, I can just bypass it, not click on it, and not have to go to a custom show. Cool. So you can do it that way, or like I said, you can link outside of it, which I'll show you in just a minute. But let's scroll up. And as you recall in my earlier training video on hiding slides, that whenever you see it in parentheses, that means that it's hidden. Of course, that was during the presentation view when you held down the shortcut keys, Control S, and it listed all the slides in the presentation, and the one that was hidden had it in parentheses. Well, that's okay. Select it, and hey, there you go, the preview. So I know that I have the right slide. Click Okie dokie, and that's it. Well, let's go ahead and click on Slideshow, and then hover over it. I get the finger pointing, saying that when I hover over this, it's a link. Hover off of it, it's not there. So if nobody comments, I can just click to go to the next slide, but they're like, wait a second, hit P for previous. What's that one right there? Click on it, and we get the hidden slide now coming into full page view, and they can go, wow, that's pretty. I really like that. Is that really ice there up along the ridge? Cool. And then I can go ahead and click, and it doesn't jump back to where we were, but it continues from that hidden slide on, so that brings up a good point. Hit the escape key. If it does bring up the hidden slide and I want to jump back to the last slide viewed, well, we know how to do that. When we're giving our presentation, you can right-click during the presentation and go to last slide view. In any case, let's scroll back down, back and select it. And then if you want to make changes to it or delete it, you can, well, right-click on it, and you get the option to edit the link and make some changes, choose another slide. You can remove the link while we're here. You can also have a screen tip to help you out, that if anybody has any questions about where this picture was taken, click on screen tip and say, well, this was Alaska, and it was like, let's do something like that. Then click Okie dokie. So when you click OK and you're giving the presentation, click on it, you hover over it, give it a second, and it pops up. You get just a synopsis of it. And if you're like, yeah, I really want to know more about that, or I'd like to see it in full detail here, do you have a bigger picture or another presentation? Well, I do have a bigger picture. Click on it. Takes us to slide 6. Let's hit the escape key and right click on it, and you also get the remove link there as well. And it's gone. No more links. Okay, next, what about an external hyperlink? Let's go to the last slide. Like, hey, about me. Let's go ahead and click and drag and select my name, because if people want to know more about me, like what certifications do I have, how long have I been working, do I have a website? Well, all that's information is at my www.dreamforce.us, so I can go ahead and select it. And when I right-click on it, if I'm careful, I can actually, with it still selected, right-click and not have it deselected to bring up the shortcut menu to go ahead and select Hyperlink. And then I don't want it as a place in the document. Let me click and drag this up. I want an existing file or web page. So an existing file would be somewhere on my desktop or on my computer. But I want to go to www.dream, there we go, and then it fills in the rest of it, the HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, www.dreamforce.us, great, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and you can see now it's hyperlinks. Let's go to our presentation, slideshow, and when I hover over it, you can see the pop-up, the URL, click on it. Hey, there's my website. Hey, go ahead and buy a video, support the cause. In any case, let's go ahead and close out, and let's hit the escape key to end the show, and let's go ahead and right click on it. You can change this and say, well, instead of going to website, how about if we edit the link, and instead we look for, how about another presentation we can jump to, like my Dreamforce. Let's go ahead and double click on that, and it doesn't have to be another presentation. It can be another document or another file on your computer, maybe like an Excel workbook. In any case, so that's how you do it, to go to another file, in this case another presentation. Let's go ahead and begin our slideshow. Hover over it, click on it, opens up that presentation from slide 1. It only has one slide. I wanted to keep it simple. And so when I'm done with it and I click at the end and it ends the show, click on it again to exit, it goes right back to our original slideshow. And then hit the escape key, right click on the selection, and we can remove it. The Actions button or Link Actions can be used to link internally to other slides, or externally, like to run a program, play sound, or even go to a website. So to insert one of these action buttons, just come up here on the Home tab and go to the Drawing group. That's right, it's a shape. Go ahead and click on it and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there you go, Action Buttons. And you can hover over any one of these and it gives you a pop-up to let you know what the default of that button's going to do. This one's going to go to the beginning of the presentation, the first slide. Now that's the default because, well, after you add it, you can change it. For example, click on it, you get the black cross, click and drag to draw your action button. That's so huge that nobody's going to miss it. So let's go ahead and let go, opens up the action settings, and, well, there you go. The default is to go to the first slide in the presentation. Now, of course, you got other options if you want to change that, like none. So you just get a fancy block here, or what other hyperlinks do we have? Well, we've got go to the next slide, go to the previous slide, last slide view, end the show, custom show. Ooh, let's check that. Hey, I still have those 3. We can go to the intermediate show and check show and return. So when we're done showing it, return back to this one. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel, see what else we got. You can go to a slide within the presentation, a website, another PowerPoint presentation, or another file. Well, let's keep it simple and do a slide within the presentation here, like slide 6. Is this the slide? Oh, good. It has the mountains, so you can see the preview. Make sure that you know what you're selecting here. Click Okie dokie, click OK, and then just go ahead and click off. When you hover back over it, you get a pop-up that says, hey, this is what it's going to do. It's going to go to slide 6. And you can go there right now. If you hold down the Control key, you get the finger, click on it. There's slide 6. Oh, that was fun. Well, let's do it during the show, so let's go ahead and scroll all the way down to the bottom by clicking and dragging the scrolly bar over here. Then come down below on the status bar and click on Slideshow. There's our big, unmistakable action block. Hover over it, get the finger, click on it. Oh, that's nice. Now, how in the heck do I get back to the end of the presentation? Well, if you created another action block here, you can click on it and go back. That is, if you wanted to set it that way. Otherwise, you can do the shortcut keys as we learned in an earlier training video, Control S, and then go ahead and click and drag. Last slide, go to it, and finish up here. Let's go ahead and hit the Escape key. Now, if you wanted to make some changes to it, like let's have it do something else, you can do a couple of things. You can right-click on it and go to Edit Link. Now, it's like a hyperlink, right? I mean, you can remove it and it's gone, but it's an action link, not just a link. When you click on it, well, it opens up the action settings. Let me show you. Let's go ahead and close out of here to expand upon this. Come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the Links group. There's Hyperlink, there's Action. Now, the hyperlink in the Hyperlinks training video, when we selected my name and clicked on Hyperlink, it opened up the Insert Hyperlink window. Well, when you have something that has an action already tied to it, you click on Link, it's going to open up the action settings. It will revert back to that because it's an action. So close out. Of course, if you click on action, it opens up the same window, action. So there you go. Right click or up here in the links group on the Insert tab. Let's see, next you can, well, run a program, run a macro if you have one, object action, play sounds. Let's run a program. And the reason why I want to cover this one is because this one was disabled in PowerPoint 2016. Because of some security reasons. So I want to show you, if you want to actually have it run a program, how to set this up. Now, in order to do this, well, let me show you that it's not going to run first. Let's go ahead and let's click on Browse. And let's come over here in the navigation pane and select on Computer. Then over here in the main view, double click the C drive. Let's open up Program Files. And I want it to open up Microsoft Excel. Yeah, that's cool. That's a fun application. Let's go down to Microsoft Office, the folder, double click, and then go to the root folder of it, double click. And then down is Office 2016, double click, and then scroll over, and we're looking for the green, there we go, excel.exe, executable file. Well, if you don't see the extension, by default, Windows doesn't have it turned on, so you can watch my Windows training video on extensions if you want to see it, but you got to be careful, and I cover it in that training video. In any case, there's the executable file for Excel. Double click. So it's set to run the program. When I click Okie dokie and I run my PowerPoint presentation, hover over it, get the finger, you see the pop-up, click on it, it does Zippo. Why? Because again, it's been disabled in PowerPoint 2016. Now if you want to enable it, let me hit the Escape key and let me bring this window up so I can show you that Microsoft Excel says it's now disabled. And you can see up here I'm on the website support.office.com in case if you want to know where I'm getting this from. And I'm just going to go ahead and go through this with you to set it up. But I got to get this out of the way. Okay, come back. So this is what it's telling you to do if you want to enable it. Go ahead and click on the Start button and in the search field type in regedit and hit Enter. Now you're going into the registry, so you want to make sure that you do exactly as I'm doing, because if you do anything else, well, if you get off the path, you could turn to stone, and also your computer. So stay with me. Click Yes, and okay, I gotta go over here in the navigation pane, scroll all the way to the top, and this is where we start. You want to go ahead because it's collapsed, or probably is by default, the H key current users. Expand it. When you expand it, you're going to go down to Software. It's collapsed, and then you want to expand Software. And then from Software, you want to find Microsoft, expand that folder, and then we got to scroll down, all the way down to find Office, then expand Office, because it's collapsed, so you expand it. And let me scroll over. So Office is expanded. You go to 16, expand that because this is, well, Office 2016. And then go down to PowerPoint, turn that down to expand PowerPoint, and then scroll down. And you want to go to the security folder. Select it, then come over here in the main window, right-click, go to New. We want to set a DWORD 32-bit value, left-click on it, and then with it still highlighted, type in Run Programs and hit Enter. Now, if you made a mistake, you're like, oopsie doodle, well, you can go ahead and click on it once, click on it twice. You can go ahead and right-click on it, and then left-click on Rename, and then type in Run Programs, just as you see it here. Then right-click on it after you have it correctly, Run Programs, capital R, capital P. I do everything that they do. And then left-click on Modify, and then you want to set the value from 0, which is disabled, to either 1, which is the default, enable but prompt user before running, or 2, enable all without prompting. If you don't want prompts, then type in 2, and that's what I'll do. OK, and it should work. All right, close out. Now let's go ahead and click on our presentation down below, hover over it, click on it. OK, it's not running. I better close out of the PowerPoint presentation first so I can refresh it. Let me hit the escape key, close out. Be sure to save it. It's on the desktop. Double-click to open it back up. Okay, now that I refreshed it, let me go ahead and hit this tag. It says, welcome back. Hey, you want to pick up where you last left off, last slide? Of course I do. Click on it. Goes right to the last. It's right there. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and begin the slideshow. Hover over it. Click on it. Hey, there's Excel. Oh, that worked. So one extra step. Close out. Fabulous. Hit the escape key. Now, after all that, if you want to go ahead and set it back, well, just reverse what I just showed you. Go back through the video and you can, well, let me show you. Because, we need to regedit, hit enter. Yes, we want to make changes. It should take you right back to it unless you made other changes. But you don't want to come in here mucking about because you could totally toast your computer. You don't want to toast it. So this is a disclaimer. Do it at your own risk. In any case, there it is. Run programs. In fact, if you just want to right-click and delete it, that's fine. You can modify it and set it to 0 so it's always there. And that's just as if you were deleting it because it will disable it, not run any programs. But in any case, right-click. I'll delete mine and say yes. So when I close out, come back down here. I may have to refresh it, but if I go ahead and begin the show and then click on it, okay, now it's prompting me, which is something that it did in earlier versions of Microsoft PowerPoint, that it asked me to enable it, disable it. So if I enable it, it opens it up. So let's close out and then hit the escape key, close out. Now let's go ahead and double click to refresh it. Come back here and click on the tag to go back to where we last left off. Okay, now we're going to start the slideshow. Let's hover over it, click on it, and there you go. It's no longer active. Let's hit the escape key. Now you can go ahead and right-click on it, to make your changes here, or even remove the hyperlink if you want to get rid of it. Let me go ahead and go to hyperlink here and just say no action or delete it. And how about the play sound and highlight the click? Instead of clicking on it, how about if we do it on mouse over? Ooh, instead of doing it with this action button, how about if we do it to an object? Oh, we're getting so creative with what we can do with the action. So delete it. Now this way we don't have to create an action button because what I'm going to show you is instead, let's go to slide 15 and let's select this one right here. And instead of right-clicking to insert a hyperlink, that's not an action, that's a hyperlink. So we can't do it here. Instead, we have to come up here and click on the Insert tab, go over to the Links group. Can't click on Link because again, it's the same Insert Hyperlink, but instead we want to insert an action. Great. We don't want to do it on mouse click, but mouse over. So when I hover over it, it will do, let's have it play a sound like, what should we have it play? A laser? Pew, pew. Yeah, sure, that sounds cool. And then highlight it when I hover over it. Are you ready? And then actually we can do something else, have it take us to another slide. We can have it do a lot of actions, but for right now we'll keep it on this one so we can repeat it over and over again without having to come back from another slide that it goes to. Click okie dokie. Now let's go ahead and begin it. And then I'll turn my speakers up so we can hear the laser. Okay, move my mouse around. It's right there when I hover over it. Ow! Ooh, that's loud. Now you see, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got red and green, the Christmas dashes around it. Well, go ahead and try it out on your computer and you'll be able to see That's what it means to highlight, red and green all the way around. Okay, enough of that. Hit the escape key. And then, of course, you can right click on it and hyperlink, which has got the action. Just uncheck everything so that way, well, set to none here and none on mouse clicks. So it's good. It won't do anything. When I go back, hover over it, nothing. Just advances to the next slide. When you're giving a presentation and you like to place emphasis to objects on a slide, you can annotate them or mark them up with a pen or a highlighter. And in this example, slide 16, I got my little tugboat, yay! And to begin my slideshow on this slide here, let's come down below on the status bar, click on the slideshow button there. And to be able to bring up your pen or highlighter, you can do it one of a couple of ways. And you'll notice that when I move my mouse around, the pointer stays up for 2 seconds. So if you move it around fast, you can see in the lower left-hand corner, you get these icons, the least of which is the pen. Click on it, and there you go. You got your pen and highlighter and also the laser pointer. You can do it that way, or instead of moving your mouse around really fast, you can right-click and go to pointer options, and hey, there we go, laser pointer, pen, highlighter. Now, if you don't want your pointer to disappear after 2 seconds because, oh, see, it disappeared. Now I'm like, okay, where's my pointer? Oh, that's annoying. So I'd have to go down to arrow options. It's still highlighting things, but I can't see the pointer. And then I'll see how it disappears. Okay, so I don't know where it's at unless it highlights something. So there you go. You see where visible is highlighted? Click on it. Okay, that was a project. Now I can see my pointer, and it will be visible throughout the entire presentation, well, at least during this session. So with it always visible, down below, I'll always have those options. I don't have to move my pointer around to get them, so that makes it easier. And of course, when I right-click, pointer options, and I talk to somebody for 2 seconds, my pointer doesn't disappear, which is annoying. In any case, here we go. Laser pointer, pen, highlighter. Let's go over the laser pointer first because that just fascinates me. Click on it, and hey, you get this red glowing donut. Isn't that fun? That's the laser pointer. And then to get rid of it, right-click, go down to pointer options, and deselect laser pointer. Now the shortcut key is holding down the control key and left-clicking, and hey, the donut's back. And then go ahead and let go. Now to bring up the pointer options, let's just come down here and click on it and go to pen, and then you get this little red dot that when you click and drag, you can start drawing, well, circles around the tugboat and say, guys, it's right there. And then you can also change the color of it. I'm going to right-click this time, go to pointer options, and the pen's selected. Come down here to ink color, let's do yellow. And then go ahead and click and drag and say, okay, the boat's going in that direction. Why? Because you can tell where a person's going by where his wake has been of destruction. And these sharks are coming after him because they're very angry that this boat is disturbing their meal throughout the day with all this noise. In any case, you can, when you're done with this, erase it a couple of ways. You can right-click and go up to pointer options and go over, well, you can erase it one at a time. Click on eraser. You get this little block in the upper left-hand corner. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, there you can against the white boat. It looks like this little asterisk there, that wherever you put that over and you click, like the line or the arrow here, it erases it. You can do that for each line, of course, or you can right-click, go to pointer options, and do erase all on the slide, and it's gone. Or let's right-click, go to pointer options, ink color, well, okay, we'll leave that, and we'll just do the pen. And we'll circle it, right? And it's going that way. And then we got the wake and then the dorsal fin. Now you can do it that way, or just hit the letter E on the keyboard and hey, isn't that fabulous? Shortcuts are beautiful. Now you can also, let me go ahead and do it again. Once you have these up, you can actually keep them up and it will keep them at the end of your presentation. At least you'll get that option. But before I end the presentation, and show you the option that you can keep your annotations, let's advance to the next slide. And I can't do it with my pointer up because it just leaves me little yellow dots, right? So I can hit the spacebar on the keyboard and go to the next slide. And I still have my pointer there. You can see up here, right there. In any case, that's not what I want to do here. I want to right-click and change it from pen to highlighter. Select that and go ahead and click and drag and hey, that's me. I'm the one who's doing the training here. Isn't that awesome? I can put my name in lights, highlight it, and then when I let go, well, in my PowerPoint 2016 program, It's the first I've seen in previous versions of PowerPoint that when I'm done highlighting, it shades it. Okay, that must be an option or something, or just a bug, but yeah, it doesn't work for me. In any case, let me show you and do it again. Let go. Oh, that's not helpful during the presentation. Then I have to click over that to highlight that. Okay. Well, that's annoying for me at least. But let's go ahead and end the presentation, and I'll show you that it doesn't keep this dark shaded background, just the yellow. For some reason, it's just doing it during this presentation, which hasn't happened in previous versions of PowerPoint, at least not for me. So let's go ahead and hit the space bar. Hit the space bar again. It says, do you want to keep your ink annotations? Yes, we'll keep them. And there they are. Slide 16 and of course slide 17. Let's go back to slide 16. So what you can do is you can format this by selecting it, and notice that when you select it, it has everything within the box here. So it sees all these lines as one entire shape. In fact, you can hover over the rotating handle, click and go this way and turn it around and say, okay, now we're going to head back the other way. Let's go ahead and hit undo. And of course, you can resize this, push it in, push it out, whatever works. And then let's come up here to its related contextual format and pins tab. First of all, the format tab. And there's not much you can do in the way of formatting except, well, change the color of the line or the outline. Click on it and let's make it red. Okay, works for me. So I'm done with this. Let's go up to the pins tab, and over on the left hand side you've got your options again. You can continue to annotate in the design view here with the pen, the highlighter, erase it, select objects. And select objects is, well, when you click on it you can come down and select your lines. It sees it as one entire shape. In fact, you can come up here and turn the ink to a shape, so when you select it, well, you don't get the ink options anymore. It's not part of it. I'm not going to do that, but if you want to do something more here with the pen, then we'll select it. And then come over here and you can change the color, of course, and do something, let's green. And then the thickness of the pen, make it 6 points, so it's really thick there. And there we go. That's supposed to be the moon. Maybe it's night. Well, except we got our scope on to make it look like it's day. You can do it that way, or you can use one of these pre-built pens. Let me click on the More button, or highlighter, but we're focusing on the pen. So when you hover over it, for this one, it's dark green pen. It's 0.5 millimeters. Or get something thicker. How about this orange guy here? Orange pen, 3.5. Ooh, that's getting big. Let's go ahead and click on that, and then there you go. And there's the sunset. It's that way. In any case, oh, we got to do a happy face. Oh, I'm having too much fun. Let's keep going. And then what we can do is when we're done with this is we can, well, go to the highlighter. Let's see what that's about. Click on it and then color our boat. And it stays yellow. You see, it doesn't give us that shade as it did during the presentation, well, on the last slide here. And the last slide, of course, isn't shaded in either. It's actually got the highlights. So I don't know, maybe something that's up with my PowerPoint program. Hopefully it works for you. In any case, you can go ahead and highlight here. You can also erase. Now when you click on it, you get 4 options. You can do the stroke erase, so you can do it one stroke at a time. Click on it, stroke, stroke. You get the eraser here. So I don't want to get rid of my sun. Click on it. It gets rid of the circle around it, that entire stroke there. And we just have a smiley face. Or you can click on the drop down arrow and do a segment. So when you click on it, wherever it crosses, like this line crosses that line, click on the line and it goes right up to it and just erases that segment. So whatever it crosses there. Okay. And you can click on the drop down arrow and you can do basic erasing, like with the small or medium size eraser. The small is just a square here, so you can get rid of that. If you need something bigger, well, go up to medium, click on it, see how it's bigger, the square, and then click and drag over this, and we'll do about that much. Now, if you want to select your strokes here, then come up here, lasso, hover over it, select by drawing a shape. Everything in the shape will be selected. So click on it, and you get a cross here that if you click and drag around it, see how it starts to, as you close in on itself, selecting, well, we haven't, there we go right past it. Oh, it's not selecting that guy. Okay, it selected everything else but that line right there. So that's a way to select it as opposed to like, well, clicking on it and selecting it and it sees it entirely. If you want to be able to select it individually, well, hit the undo button and do the lasso thing. That gets a bit tricky, at least for me. I kind of encircle it if I don't just do it right, and it worked for that. So there we go. Now it's not part of the Borg here of everybody else. When I click on select objects and I select it, it selects everything. Okay, that's good for this slide. Let's go to slide 17 with our highlight here. Highlighter, select it. Come up here, click on the Format tab, and you can change the highlight. Go to something red. Looks a little bit more graffitied. Let's click off, and there we go. Select it again. You also get the Pins tab, but as far as formatting, what we've already done here with the different colors is the best that we can do on the Format tab here, except, well, you can change the length of it and the height of it so it encompasses more, and you can really see where I didn't get quite a good coverage here when I swathed back and forth with my highlighter. Oh, how embarrassing. And of course it goes for this little guy too. You can make it more so this way. Well, you got the resizing handles, do that as well. If you don't like getting up in front of, let's say, well, anybody to give a presentation, or you've got somebody else who's going to be giving it for you, but who doesn't know the details enough to do it justice, I recommend doing a pre-recorded slideshow. And if you want to include your voice in the recording, then make sure you got a microphone hooked up to your computer. And then when you're ready, come up here, click on the Slideshow tab, go to the Setup group, and there you go, Record Slideshow. You can either click on the button to begin recording from the current slide, which is what I have selected over here. The current slide is slide 1, so it'll begin there, or you can click on the drop-down arrow, get the same option from the current slide or from the beginning. So if I'm on slide like 5, and I click from the beginning, well, it goes to the start and records from the beginning. Let me go ahead and click off. Now, when I'm ready, since I already have slide 1 selected, and that's the first slide in the presentation, I can just go ahead and click on Record from the current slide, click on it, and in the pop-up it says select what you want to record before you begin recording. Now, by default, it's going to include like slide and animation timings. What that means is that as you advance from one slide to the next, when you get to the second slide, it's going to keep track of how much time you spent on the first slide and save it. So if it's 5 seconds, it'll save it there, then maybe 10 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Then at the end, it'll save it all, so when you want to play it back, it's great because it'll advance automatically for us. So when somebody else is giving the presentation, because I can't be there, it'll have my voice, and it'll automatically advance through it, so they don't have to sit there and wait till I'm done speaking and try to figure out if I just took a long, deep pause in my recordings and click and miss over the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, include the slide and animation timings. And then if I include any like laser pointer ink narrations in my presentation, with it checked, it'll be recorded. If I uncheck it, well, it's not going to be there, but I'll check it. And then when I'm ready and I click on Start Recording, in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to have 2 timers. The first timer is the amount of time that I'm spending on that slide through the presentation. Like if I'm on slide 3, and I just got there, it'll be, well, 0 seconds, then advanced 1, 2, 3, 4. The second timer is the total amount of time up until that point. So if I had 10 seconds on slide 1, 5 seconds on slide 2, the second timer will have a total of, well, these two, 15 seconds. Well, let me show you. Click on Start Recording, and in the upper left-hand corner, the first timer is the amount of time on this slide, and then the second timer is overall. Let me go ahead and click to advance to the next slide. That continues the second timer, as opposed to the first timer, which is the amount of time on this slide. Click to advance, and let me hold down the Control key and click, and there's my laser annotation. It should record that. And then click to advance, and then if I'm going through this one, going, okay, this is where we've been, this is where, oh, I messed up. Okay, I have to re-record the whole thing. No, what you can do for this slide only, if you've gotten it right on all the previous slides, is to come up here and click on the repeat arrow. When I click on it, that will zero out and go back to the beginning. And then this will go back to, well, the total amount of time before I got to this slide. So it's 42, click on repeat, and it goes back to 19, and then that's back to 0. And it's also paused, thank goodness. So I can get it right. Okay, this is where we've been, this is where we are, and this is where we want to go. So go ahead and click on resume. This is where we've been, this is where we go. And then we can go ahead and click on repeat and then start over again and keep doing it and doing it. And now, keep in mind that when you do this, there's a second lag in this, so I don't want to jump right into it when I resume recording. Give yourself a second and then start talking. And then before you advance to the next slide, which by the way, you can come up here and click on next, make sure that you're done talking before you click next for about a second or two, because it will cut you off. It's like I said, there's a bit of a lag. So click on next, and we'll do 1 second, and 1 second. And there we go, we're done. How do you know? Well, first of all, you can see at the bottom right-hand corner of my slides, you've got the audio for each slide. Go to slide 2, and there's the audio. So I can go ahead and hover over it, brings up the audio bar, click on play.
The next slide. That continues the second timer.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. Now to find the timings or to see them, let's go ahead and go to the slide sorter view. Down on the status bar, click on slide sorter. And there you go. You got the speaker there, but you also have the timing down below. So the total amount of time in this slide is 6 seconds. Then we go to the next slide for 7, 7, 17, 3. Okay. So all I have to do is go ahead and give this to my buddy. He can go and fly somewhere around the world and set this up, and then just come up here and click on from the beginning.
Upper left-hand corner, the first timer is the amount of time on this slide.
Now you can hear my voice talking.
Overall, let me go ahead. The next slide.
See how it kind of cut me off there? Yeah, you got to be careful. Give it an extra second before you advance to the next slide and start talking.
Control key and click, and there's my
and you stop talking.
Annotation. It should record that.
Oh, it recorded the laser. Great.
Give yourself a second and then start talking. And then before you advance to the next slide, which by the way, you can come up here and click on next. Make sure that you're done talking before you click next for about a second or two, because it will cut you off. It's like I said, there's a bit of a lag. So
yeah,
we'll do 1 second.
Cut me off there. Oh, that's horrifying.
1 second.
So you may have to re-record if you're like me and you get excited about talking during the presentation and forget to have those lag times. Okay, if you want to be able to clear some of this out, you can, well, come up here on the slideshow tab, go to the setup group, click on record slideshow, and you can go to clear. You can clear the timing or the narration or both. So you want to do it for all slides, the timings. So there's 6 seconds, 7 seconds, clear it on all slides. Now when I do that, it still has my voice recorded on each slide because you can see the speakers there. So when I begin the slideshow from the beginning, if I don't have the timing,
the first timer is the amount of time on this slide, and then the second timer is overall. I go ahead and click.
See, there's the end of the recording. So whoever's giving the presentation for me is like, is he done? Is he taking an abated breath? And then click next to go to the next one. And then it picks up with the audio for that. Let me hit the escape key on the keyboard. So what you may want to do is, well, if you want to go ahead and add timings again, you'll have to select it and then come up, go to the transitions tab and go ahead and deselect on mouse click, and then, guess how much time I spent on that slide. Because, if I only took 5 seconds and there's an extra 3 seconds, so that's horrifying. In any case, let's undo. Undo, 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 undo. And then we're back here, so we'll leave those up. You can also, let's go back to the slideshow tab and record slideshow drop-down arrow. Also clear out the narrations on the current slide. Let's do all slides. So the speakers go, and let me go ahead and with slide 3 selected, let's come up here from the current slide, click on it. It just has the timing. It doesn't have my voice recorded in the background, and also doesn't have the laser pointer. It's part of the narration. And hit the escape key to end the show. The Rehearse Timings feature records the amount of time you spend on each slide, and you can save those times to run the show automatically in the future. In other words, if you have a set amount of time to give your presentation, you can go through a practice run and use the Rehearse Timings feature to record the amount of time you would spend on each slide, which adds up, of course, to the overall timing for the entire presentation. So if I need to give these 6 slides in under 30 seconds, well, let's come up here, click on the slideshow and do a practice run. Go to the setup group. There's Rehearse Timings. You can see in the pop-up, practice makes perfect. Start the full screen slideshow to figure out the perfect timing for each slide. So when I click on it, it's going to open up, and in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to see 2 timers. The first one is going to be the total amount of time that I'm spending on the current slide during the presentation. The second timer is the cumulative amount. Like if I'm on slide 3 and I spent 10 seconds here, 5 seconds there, the total for the second timer would be 15 seconds. So that way for the overall, I can see, 15 seconds halfway through. I got just about 15 seconds left to go, so I can keep this at 30 seconds or under. Let me show you. Come up here, click on Rehearse Timings, upper left-hand corner. That's the total amount of time for this slide. That's overall. Click to advance. Starts back to 0, but it keeps track of what I spent so far, including the first slide. Click to advance. And you can also click on that little arrow there to click next. And then when you're going through this and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend about 5 seconds here talking about, wait a second, maybe I should spend 4. You can come up here and click on repeat. and it zeroes it off, so you're starting over, and it goes back and just includes the time from the first slide up until the last slide, not this slide. So I can go ahead and resume and say, okay, I want to spend, this is where we were, this is what we've done, this is where we're going. Okay, let's go ahead and go next. Then we can go ahead and pause this and say, let me think about this. 2 seconds is good, but I think I need a little bit more time. Go ahead and click on resume. And then click to advance, click to advance. Total amount of time is 26 seconds, and I could see it up there, the second timer, so I'm under 30. Great. Do you want to save it? If I say yes, then to view this, you can do it one of two ways. You can either with the slide selected, or any slide for that matter, come up here, click on the Transitions tab, go to the timing group, and there you go, almost 5 seconds for that slide. What about slide 2? 5.5 roughly. Or I like going down to the bottom on the status bar, clicking on the Slide Sorter button, and being able to see all my slides pretty much in one view. If you've got a lot more here, what you can do is use the slider, click and drag to zoom out to see more of your slides, or you can hold down the Control key, and if you have a rolly button on your mouse, roll out, roll in. Well, in any case, there we go. So I have a total of 5 seconds on this slide, 6, 3, and if I'm like, okay, how about 1? I need to talk about myself a little bit more. So with it selected, well, I can double click on it and it goes to the normal view. And I can come up here on the Transitions tab where I last left, and let's do 2 seconds. Then come back down here, go to the Slide Sorter, 2 seconds, great. Now, if at one point you're giving this to an audience where you don't want to have it timed for you, or you want to keep the timings, but you don't want it to automatically go through it, instead of coming up here and going to 0 on all of them, let's come up here, click on the Slideshow tab, go to the Setup group, and just uncheck Use Timings. It doesn't clear out the timings, but it just means during the presentation, don't use them and automatically advance after 5 seconds onto the next slide. So that way, when you're giving the presentation again, and you want to stick to the times, then come up here on the Slideshow tab and say, yes, use timings. Now that doesn't mean that when you're giving the presentation, you got 5 seconds if you finish early. At 4 seconds that you couldn't click to advance because the click will override the timings. So you can click, well, as quick as you can under 5 seconds or under 6, but if you go up to 6 seconds and you didn't click, it'll automatically advance to the next slide. Of course, we learned about that in an earlier training video in that when we came up here and we did Setup Slideshow, click on it, use timings, it's checked, use timings. If you did manually, clicked okie dokie, it would uncheck it, and then vice versa. If you come back and you say, okay, let's use timings here, and I click OK, it'll check it there. There we go, it's checked. Now, if the timings don't work for you, of course, you can go back and rehearse timings again and start from scratch, and there we go, 1, 2, 3, advance to the next, hit the escape key, and let's say we're done. We finished early. The total time for your slideshow is 5, but if I save it and say yes, notice, well, there's the total 4 second, 1 second. It didn't erase all the others. It kept them because I didn't advance to that point where it could go ahead and overwrite it when I did another rehearsal. So you can do partial rehearsals there. The Merge and Compare feature allows you to merge a copy of your presentation that you sent out to another user who's made changes to it, and then when they send it back to you with those changes, you can then merge that copy back into your original, in which case PowerPoint is going to mark off all those differences between the original and the copy for you then to accept or reject those changes. You can then repeat this over and over again if you have multiple copies to merge, but only one can be merged and copied at a time. So for example, I've got my original presentation here, and let's say that I sent off 6 copies of it, and Mr. Humphreys is the only one who returned it with some changes. So before I go ahead and show you this feature, I want to show you the one change that he's made so you can see what it looks like when we do the merge and compare. On slide 1, in my original here, I've got the leader in paranormal research. In his, I believed he changed paranormal to supernatural. So let's go ahead and find out. Let's minimize this down to the taskbar because on my desktop, there we go. Now I named the file. You can name the copy of the original whatever you want. In this case, I named it after the person I want them to review it, make changes. So this is Mr. Humphreys. So let's go ahead and double click to open it up. And, oh, there we go. Slide 1, the leader in supernatural, not paranormal. So he's made changes. I mean, can you imagine doing this without the help of merge and compare, going back and forth? Okay, slide 3, he's got this. Slide 3, I've got that. Well, it's the same. Well, I can't remember. Well, that's just a mess. So, with using the merge and compare feature, let's close out of the copy and go back to our original. Click on the button to restore it, and in your original, come up here, click on the Review tab because, yeah, we are doing a review to whether or not we want to accept or reject changes. Go to the Compare group and click on Compare. Opens up and it says choose file to merge with current presentation. Now notice how it says a file, not files, so it's just one at a time. And notice how it's PowerPoint. We're not merging and comparing with Access or Excel or Outlook, and that makes sense, right? And also, you want to make sure it's a copy of the original because, well, first of all, if it wasn't, why would you want to do it? Because second of all, PowerPoint may have a fit with all the differences between two different presentations. So we just want something that's a copy of the original that many changes have been made instead of two entirely different presentations. Just keep that in mind. So there's Mr. Humphreys. Go ahead and double click. And let's go over, first of all, well, you see a little pop-up right here. And the reason why that's popping up immediately of all the changes, well, let me explain. Come over here with me, good neighbor, into the revisions task pane. And you've got slides and the details. So first of all, details is in bold. We'll go with this first. And down below, you've got slides and presentation changes. Now for the slide changes, PowerPoint wants to go over presentation changes first, something that affects the entire presentation overall. So any changes made on a slide-by-slide basis, it doesn't care. So what's a presentation change? Well, as you can see in the pop-up here, is somebody deletes or inserts a slide. That affects the entire presentation, especially if you're deleting a slide because you're actually deleting an entire thought that flows with your presentation. Also, any theme changes that you make, well, when you update a theme, it updates all the slides throughout the entire presentation. So it wants to go over and review those first, and so you can see down below presentation changes. It's slide 2 on our website. Well, what's the deal with that? Well, if you come up here, there's slide 2, and it's there, but Mr. Humphreys in his copy deleted it. Okay, well, if I accept his deletion on our website right there, when I check it, it disappears, so slide 3 is now slide 2. But if I go, oh, I didn't want to do that, that's okay. Just go ahead and hover over it, click to see all slides deleted from this position, click on it, and it pops it back up to allow you to uncheck it and reject his change, so to speak, because it's still there for you to, click on it and check it to delete it and accept his change. So that's the only change that I have that affects the entire presentation overall, as opposed to, a slide change. So it says no changes to this slide, slide 2. The next set of changes is on slide 4. So we can go ahead and go to slide 4, or you can come up here on the Review tab, go to the Compare group, and click on Next. And it'll jump right to it, as you can see in the pop-up. Click Next. And so you notice how it goes from slide 2, and it jumps to 1, because again, it wants to go over any presentation changes that affects the presentation as a whole. Deleted slides, theme changes. And then after it addresses that, then okay, let's start with slide 1 if there is any changes on the slide. And so you can see, oh, there's some changes here. So all changes to subtitle 2. And you've got 2 that you can accept or reject. First of all, Mr. Humphreys inserted supernatural. And then second of all, he deleted paranormal. Well, if he didn't delete it, then we've got leader in supernatural paranormal research. Sounds very wordy, so I agree. If I'm going to go with his insertion, I better also go with his deletion. So it's just leader in supernatural research. Oh, that's fabulous. And then, of course, I can go ahead and uncheck that, check it. And at any point during my review, I can make these changes. I can play with this as much as I want. That is until I come up here on the Review tab and come over here and end the review. Once you do that, it's all over, folks. You can't come back here and change your mind, so we won't do that yet. Let's continue. So you can see over here, slide changes. You can select it. In any case, that's what's on this slide. And we can uncheck it and say, you know what, I like my paranormal research. What else you got? Come up here and click on Next. Oh, here's a fun one. What do we got here? And this is on slide, you can see it over here, highlighted, number 4. And you can see over here the slide changes, rectangle 5, 3 steps. That's what's been changed. Flowchart, okay, well, let's go ahead and go through this. Now, before I get too far, these are the things that have changed. It's outlining it with the names, the rectangle, the flowchart. That's the details. Click on Slides, Now on slides, it's going to show you an overall view graphically. So when I'm looking at the words and any changes are made to the words, like let's see, point, shoot, and follow, click on the tag, he inserted chase and deleted follow. Well, chase sounds more manly than follow, so I agree with that because, hey, it sounds really aggressive when we do something like chasing instead of just kind of tagging around a ghost. So let's go ahead and go with the insertion and deletion. Now when you do that, I don't know about you, but I can't read that. That's too tiny. So again, what you see over here on the slide selection as opposed to the details is just an overall format view. And so you can see, interesting, you've got orange arrows, right? And here it's green. So if you want something visually for overall, graphically, or just the size, position of objects, well, this is the way to go. But you can click on details if it's something about wording that it doesn't give you much here. It just gives you the specific object that's being affected or that has changes made to it. And you can see we approved that one, so that one's checked. In which case we can go ahead and click next, or you can just come down here and click on these little, pencil with the little pad next to it. Click on it, and it says Fill Style. So this is what I've got here. If I check it, then I go with Mr. Humphreys, his orange. Okay, sure, why not? And then I can go ahead and click Next and Fill Style. Oh, that's nice. Click Next. I think I like his orange. Click Next, and oh, what did he do here? He inserted chase and deleted follow. Again, chase sounds more aggressive and assertive. I agree. So I'll check insert. And if I don't go with the next change, then I got chase follow. So we'll delete chase and oh, that looks great. Okay, let's go ahead and click next. Anything else? Okay, so we've got a ghost here and the size and position has been changed. Well, it doesn't help me to see what changes Mr. Humphreys made. So if I come up here and click on the slides tab, oh, there we go. So this is where I'm at here, and this is where he put it here. As far as the size, I can't tell a difference because it looks like it's a lot smaller here, but in proportion to the other ghosts, so I can't tell the size. But I can tell that he's not on top of the ghost, he's below him. So if you really want to see what Mr. Humphreys changed it to, then click on the tag and accept what he has, and it looks like it's the same size, but just different position. So now we accepted it, it's at the same position here. If I go ahead and uncheck it and say, I'll just leave it as such, and then come up here and click next. Well, it says that's it. That was the last change in the presentation. You want to continue reviewing from the beginning. Okay, let's see if there's anything else we missed. And we go back to presentation changes. It says no changes to this slide. The next set is on slide 4. Okay, then we can just start over again and keep going through it. It'll always be up there. So if I click next, well, it goes to slide 1 because after presentation changes, it starts from the beginning of any slide changes, and it's always there. It'll always be there until we finally say, you know what, I'm done. Click on End Review. And be careful because when you do that, click on it. Are you sure you want to end the review for merge? This will end the review and any unapplied changes will be discarded. So if I didn't accept anything, they haven't been applied, changes that Mr. Humphreys made, I'll just throw them away and say, fine, we'll just stick with what you got. Okie dokie, say yes. That's it. Oh, I can't bring that little tag back. Well, we now know why, because we ended the review. So we're done with this one with Mr. Humphreys. Now we can go ahead and do another to Mrs. Slocum. If she sent me a copy back and made changes of the original here. So I come up here, click on compare, and then come down here and select her. But, well, we'll go with Mr. Humphreys again. But keep in mind, because we accepted some of his changes, not all of them, that when I double click on Mr. Humphreys again, those that I didn't accept that are different between the two, it'll bring them back up. So I can, again, it starts off, let's go to the details here, with any presentation changes like, hey, he really wants to get rid of slide 2 on our website. What's up with you, man? We got to mark it. Come on, Mr. Humphreys, get with the program. So I'm not going to delete that. And again, you can go ahead and click next and go through these, accept or reject. And as you go through all these, in fact, if you trust Mr. Humphreys completely, you've been through everything and you haven't checked each one of them, but you liked all of them, you can click on the accept drop-down arrow and you get some choices. You can accept the change here, just the instance of it. You can accept all changes to the slide, so if you have many instances of changes on the slide, or accept all changes to the entire presentation. Select all that and everything's checked. You got the deleted website slide. And also, you got a check mark here that it was accepted, in which case you can always go back and say, you know what, I really don't want this. So you can click on reject, and it puts them back, it unchecks it. And then we can go to the next change. Well, it says you want to continue from the beginning. Click on continue. Deleted slide, you can uncheck it or just come up here and reject it. So you got more than one way to skin a rabbit. You can do it manually by checking the notepad and paper here, the changes made there, or use the corresponding buttons as you advance from one to the next. Accept it. You can even just click on the button. Accepts it and it goes to the next one. Click next. Well, that's all we got left is whether or not we want to delete the slide and reject it. So you may find it a bit faster by clicking next, accept, next, reject, next, accept, or reject. And then when you're done, end the review. One final thing that I think you may find helpful is that if these markups are getting in the way, you got a lot of text here or boxes or shapes and you can't get to the one behind it because, well, it's on top of it. You can come up here on the Review tab, go to the Show Comments, click on the drop-down arrow, and uncheck Show Markups. And these little markups, notepads with pencils, disappear. But if you have the Revisions task pane open, well, if it's not, you're like, where did it go? Well, then come up here on the Review tab, go to the Compare group, and click on Reviewing Pane to bring up, Reviewing Pane to disappear. Click on it again to bring it back up. And what you can do is, these are all the changes on this slide, just click on one. And it will tag it, highlight that object, and with any changes that have been made. Let's go to the next one. Let's say yes, go to the next one, and check that. You can see it's checking what we've accepted over here in the details on the slide changes, that is. And then when you're done and you want to see those markups again, well, don't forget, just come back up here, Review tab, Show Comments, and say Show Markups, and it will show next to each object that a change has been made. The comment feature allows you to add comments on any slide as a way for you or others to make notes or remarks about objects used in your presentation, or thoughts or ideas to help you build it. Now, these comments won't be displayed during the presentation, but are only available in the design view. So you can see I got a total of 3 comments here. And before I go over these comments, down below on the status bar, you've got, well, I've got it says comments, that when you open up a presentation after new comments have been added, you'll get a pop-up above this here that says, hey, you got comments. It's like a flag to let you know to check for those new comments. And if you don't see comments on the status bar, then right-click anywhere on it. And of course, let me uncheck it. Now I checked it and it's now there. In any case, if you want to see what these comments are, first go ahead, you can hover over the tag and it says click to show the comments pane. So when you click, got a total of 1, 2, 3 tags, callouts, and you've got a corresponding comment for each callout. So when I select this one right here, it's highlighted over in the comments pane, and it's tagged to our company name GOPS, and it says Mr. Humphreys here on July 23rd, 2012. Oh my gosh, that's a long time ago. I gotta get to work. So we ought to make the text here larger, don't you think? Oh yeah, we gotta promote our names, so I can just go ahead and agree with that, move on to the next comment, which, you know, you can go ahead and hover over another one. When you do, you can see over in the comments pane, there's 2 that are highlighted, one that has the selection and one that I'm hovering, but when I click, it jumps to that tag there and it highlights it, so keep that in mind. Is this really the logo we're going to use? I thought we're going to use a text logo instead. Okay. I'm going to ignore that and just go ahead and go to the next comment, which, by the way, you can come over here in the task pane and click on Next. And well, now it's going down, so it's going from top to bottom. Click Next, and we finally get to the bottom or the last one on the slide. It says, is this our fist? Oh, fist. Okay, it should have said first. I can help. Go ahead and click in his comment and type in the letter R. Is this our first annual meeting? If so, when did it start? Maybe we ought to put first annual meeting. Okay, I agree. Let's come up here and click in here, make the suggested change. And then if I want, I can go ahead and reply to his comment. Come down below in the reply section, say yes, agree. And then when I'm done, once I click out, okay, you got one comment there, right? Once I click out, because there's a reply, there's a second call out behind the first one to let you know that something's going on there, more than just one comment, but a reply to it. And so I can keep replying to the original comment as much as I'd like, or I can go ahead and delete my original here, or I can come up here and delete his and it's gone. Or I can come over here and right click on it and delete the comment, even create a new comment and even copy the text. So if I left click to copy it and I right click to make a new comment, okay, that new comment is right next to the old one, so click and drag that over here. And I'm going to put it right next to our first annual meeting, and then come over here, click inside of it, right click and paste the text that I copied from that comment over here. Although it makes no sense, we ought to make the text here larger, don't you think? Or maybe it does, because maybe we ought to make this text larger so it not only works for the name of our company, but maybe our first annual meeting, we need it larger. In any case, that's a comment for me just a few seconds ago. Oh, I better keep going here, or I can go ahead and delete that, of course. And I can come up here as well and click on New Comment, and there it is down below, but where is it over here? When you do it that way, it's always in the upper left-hand corner, so you can click and drag that around. And that little pointy part is where you want to put just right next to whatever it's referring to here. At least that's what I recommend. You can put it right here if that makes more sense to you, right next to the first annual meeting, and say, in my reply, say, get rid of first, and then send it off to somebody else for review to see if they like it. Say, well, is that okay? And then send it off to Mr. Humphreys in any case. We got new comments. We can go previous. We can go to the next one. You can also come up here and click on the review tab in the comments group, and you can create a new comment here in the upper left-hand corner. And we can go ahead and type in anything that we want to help with the design and the construction of our presentation, then click off. And then, of course, you can click on it, hit the delete key, and it's gone. And you can also delete it up here as well. In fact, you can go to the next comment. So it's going down in descending order again. You can either click on the delete comment, and you can see in the pop-up it's going to delete the selected comment, or you can click on the drop-down arrow and get a whole lot of more options. Delete the selected comment, delete all comments and ink on the slide. If you watch my training video on annotations, and you can see the ink over here, you can ink it up. You can do that. Or delete all comments and ink in this presentation. I better not do that because we got a few more things I want to show you. So let's go ahead and click off. And if we don't want to see our comments, you can see you got the drop-down arrow. We got the comments pane. Click on it. It disappears, but we still see our markups for the comments, right? You can come down below on the status bar and click on comments, and it brings up the comment pane. Click on it to disappear, or again, just come up here, click on it. You can see it's not checked because it's hidden, and bring up the pane. Oh, what a pain. Let's go ahead and close out of it. You can also click on the drop-down arrow and don't show the markups if the markups are in the way of your designing here. And then once you're done designing, moving things around, and you want to be able to see those comments again, well, you can click on the button up here, and it shows not only the markups here, but also the comments pane. So either or, you can see one or the other or both. And let's go ahead and click next, next, next. Okay, now we went from slide 1 to slide 2. Do we danishes and muffins? Oh, what? Oh, Mr. Humphreys, your sentence structuring is horrifying. Do we have danishes and muffins? Okay, let's help him out. In any case, you can go ahead and go through all that, make some more replies, and you can see that the comment here, which if it's not in the right place because it looks like it's coming up from the presidents, at least when I read the Sunday papers when I was a kid, they had those little call-out bubbles being called out from the character that was speaking it. It was from the tip of his mouth here, and the tip of the president's isn't about the breakfast, so I can click and drag that and put it right up above there, so it's calling out from the breakfast. Hey, do we have danishes and muffins or something more like eggs, bacon, pancakes? Delicious breakfast. And then also you can, well, if it's text here, you can go ahead and select it, and then come up here and click on New Comment, and it just tags it right next to it. So, well, you couldn't really put it up here, right? I guess you could, but that would be in the way. But then you can always go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and deselect markups, and it gets rid of the task pane, and then do your thing. In any case, whatever works best for you. Okay, and then finally, to print off your comments, let's come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Print, and then by default it wants to print full page slides, one per page. When you click on the drop-down arrow, there we go, Print Comments and Ink Markup. What that will do is that if there's any comments on a slide, after the slide on the second page, it'll have all the comments listed. Well, let me show you. Let's go ahead and click on Print Comments and Ink Markup, and oh, there we go. So slide 1, we had comments, and it's got them tagged here. There's WH. Well, you probably can't see it. Let me go ahead and zoom in. There you go. And that's at 100%, so that's what it's going to look like when it comes out of my printer. WH William Humphreys, first comment, second comment, and where's his third? Oh, that's by me. So that's right. I made the change here, deleted his Kurt Kershaw 3. Now remember, where are these initials and names coming from? How does that get pulled in? If you watch my earlier training video on customizing your environment for PowerPoint and updating your personal information, which is backstage here, okay, fine. Go to Options here, and there you go, General tab down to Personalize your copy. There's the username, and there's the initials. So the initials will come up. Let me click Cancel. Well, we better go back to Print, Control P, the shortcut keys on the keyboard. We'll have the initials for Mr. Humphrey and the number of where it's at in the series of comments. So we're on slide 3. So let's go ahead and click to zoom that in. So slide 1 had 3. This one is continuation of 4. And then Kershaw 5. And then Mr. Humphrey's number 5. So in any case, let's go ahead and go to the next one. And then the next page, let's go ahead and zoom out so you can see. It's got each of those tags with the comments next to them. So when you print this off, there we go. You'll see on the previous slide that print off. When you're looking at WH4, that's the position and the comment that was made. Do we have Danishes? So that would be, on slide 3 here. He's talking about food. So there we go. It's right there. Maybe we want to pull it down just a little bit closer to breakfast, because it is about food and not about the title here. So tags, then after, let's click on to fit. The comments referring to those tags. Do I have any on the next? Well, we got one at the end of boo here. So we'll have the final page with that one comment here. What is that comment? Let me click and drag to zoom it in. Boo. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.